Also talks of scrapping tuition fees for those who do science, maths degrees, any sort of engineering degrees as well.
Yes,
but what about students that do, politics degrees or law degrees who aren't naturally maths minded and don't have the same sort of abilities? In a sense, for those students that do feel sidelined by that, why is that, and how can you really incorporate them?
Okay, the reason why we've chosen STEM subjects, so it's science, it's technology, engineering, maths and medicine, is because we've identified a shortfall in skilled employment in that area. So we're trying to encourage more students coming through to fill in the next gap of employment which has been identified for the next 5, 10, 20 years. So we want more people going into those areas. Okay, but what we do want to do is actually widen the range of tuition fees, so we can lower them for other areas as well. But we have to identify the ones we need first, then hopefully we can expand that.
Okay. Another thing that
just brush on that.
Yeah.
It'll be very easy for us to go free for all, but let's be realistically. So let's have a look what we need first, and then expand to other areas later when we know we're able to financially do so. So it's about being responsible and prudent.
Okay. I also read that on the 100 Ways to Vote UKIP, they talk of promoting a British identity, and they say that multiculturalism has essentially failed. And I actually read somewhere that international students actually benefit universities, and I would say, myself, this university is quite multicultural, and a lot of us do benefit from having like a multicultural presence. Could you expand maybe on what UKIP means by British identity, and why you think that, knowing all of this, that multiculturalism has failed?
Multicultural is a different word. My family, they're Sardinian, and I'm a second generation immigrant, so no one's benefited more from immigration than me because I'm here. But what do we mean by that? Multicultural, what it has done, it's actually created a slight segregation in areas of the population. What we want is to stop the segregation and have integration. Now, we all know Britain has got a multicultural society throughout time, throughout the history of the Commonwealth. India, America, the Caribbean, a lot of African countries, and what the Commonwealth used to be is people used to go from one Commonwealth country to another, and that's perfectly fine. So we're naturally multicultural anyway. But identifying a British society is that within the Commonwealth, Britishness, I think, one way of looking at it, it's been exported to other areas of the world. Common law, for example, where Commonwealth countries have common law. So we have lots of history and culture and heritage which is already shared around the world. And what we found is over the last 10 to 15 years, it's been frayed around the edges. Okay, so what we want is communities to come together and integrate more instead of having pockets of different societies which are now the kind of, I don't know the word's diverse, but like I say, it's segregated, and we want to integrate. But if you go around some areas of Nottingham East, for example, where I was born in Snenter, that's always been a hotbed for immigration. There's a lot of Italians, Indians, people from Pakistan, Irish, Scottish, everywhere. Okay, and that's the history of Nottingham East for certainly as long as I've been on my mum's side as well. Now, everyone used to get on. Kids used to play with each other. And it was fine. Now, if you go there now, you've got little groups of kids who aren't playing with each other, and that's really sad to see, And it's about bringing people together, and that's what we want. If we all share the same type of heritage and culture, we're all together, we're all the same people. So let's be, integrate together rather than, segregated.
But when you meant about, there's a British identity that UKIP often talks about. Nigel Farage talked about having like HIV treatment just for British citizens. Where is this sort of segregated? It is in a sense segregated from like British citizens and say people that are from different countries.
British citizens doesn't mean people who are necessarily whose families live there forever. It means people who are already here in Britain, who are already contributing. So in many respects, even as my family immigrants, we're British, although Sardinian or even German. Yourself, you're British, because you're here, you contribute. So you're entitled to the full benefit of such as the NHS. But what we have in that area of Pacific is when you mentioned the HIV, is when you've got people coming, let's say, over to use our NHS system, but without contributing to the society, it's a problem.
I'm with Dave Poole, who is part of Young Independents, which is the UKIP Students' Party, and he's also standing for Councillor of Dunkirk and Lenton. Thank you so much for being here today,
That's right,
Dave.
thanks for having me.
One of the first things I wanted to ask you, obviously UKIP has got a lot of negative coverage, and it's seen as quite unpopular maybe by some students. So why UKIP as opposed to Labour, Conservative, Green Party? Why UKIP?
Because they offer real positive change, and the other parties, they use change as a buzzword, but on the real big policies, the only difference between them is the colour of the tie.
Okay.
With UKIP, they actually believe in a real change. They believe in political reform. They're the only party to oppose the undemocratic European Union. They're the only party, just pick a left field policy to oppose Syrian intervention.
Okay.
That's why I'm in UKIP, because they offer real, honest change for everyone, and it's not just about appealing to certain voters.
Okay. Would you say a lot of young people think like you in the sense of being sceptical of the EU?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, if we just judge it on Young Independents for a moment, membership of that has grown 100% in a year, and obviously that's basically unprecedented. You don't see that very often. So just in that case, you can see that Euroscepticism is growing.
Okay.
But I think, a lot of people are waking up to the fact now that all of the other parties are in it, and that all of the other parties believe in European Union membership, whereas UKIP are the only party who says no.
Okay. What would you say the aims of Young Independent Society is? So if there's any sort of students that are watching this now and they want to know what are Young Independents about, what do they do?
Well, Young Independents, we've got UKIP obviously has a whole range of policies, and a lot of those are aimed at younger people. So Young Independents policies that perhaps would entice a voter to join us would be things like cutting tuition fees on STEM and medicine subjects. We're the only party to do that. We would stand behind grammar schools, and we'd also stand behind things which young people are very interested in, such as animal welfare and supporting the NHS. Labour claim to be the party on the NHS, but they actually privatised a higher percentage of it than the Tories have. So UKIP are the only party to say no to PFI, no to privatisation.
Okay. How would you say that Young Independence relates to students? So if any students are watching this and they think, I don't think Young Independence relates to me, what would you have to say against that?
How do you mean? Clarify.
As in, how do you think they relate to the students that are politically involved, but don't know which party to particularly vote for? How will they relate to UKIP as opposed to all the other parties?
Well, I think if you look at, again, voting figures, perhaps, for younger people, they're the lowest of all, and that shows political apathy. But that doesn't necessarily mean all apathy. It might just be with the old legacy parties.
Okay.
Now, UKIP is different, and UKIP offers a whole range of different policies that we've not seen in any of the old legacy.
Thank you for watching NSTV's coverage of UKIP, and we hope that you all have enjoyed this and that you actually vote in 2015. Thank you.